Today's cocktail is the Tokyo Iced Tea. The Tokyo Iced Tea, or Tokyo Tea, is a variation on the Long Island Iced Tea and is a powerful cocktail. The recipe includes 1 ounce each of vodka, gin, white rum, tequila, and triple sec, 2 ounces of melon liqueur, and a splash of lemon soda or club soda. Substituting blue curacao for triple sec will give the cocktail a deeper blue tint. I have had one of these. In fact, I've had more than one of these, and I can tell you it makes for an interesting evening if you're not careful. As always, drink responsibly, and if you are all the way grown and accustomed to handling your alcohol, then the Tokyo Iced Tea might be a drink for you. Thanks. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining me. It's me, the car guy, alias the Killer Bee, alias the Africanized Honeybee. And with me tonight is my special guest host, Tony. Hi, Tony.
Hey, how are you tonight?
I'm great. And tonight we're going to talk about my multiple trips to Exotics Racing Las Vegas. And a disclaimer here, I don't intend for this to be an endorsement of the company. I'm talking about my experiences while I was there, but this is not meant to serve as any sort of formal endorsement or informal endorsement. You can go if you want to go, that's up to you. I'm just talking about my experiences there as a customer. Thanks.
All right, so why Exotics Racing?
Honestly, because I'm a car guy and I've done some track driving. Originally, I wanted to go to track school for my 40th birthday. And when you live in Iowa, your track school options are kind of slim. So I knew I was going to have to fly somewhere, and I just decided going to Las Vegas and driving Ferraris and Porsches was better than, trying to squeeze myself into a Formula One car like a Skip Barber or Miata or something like that. The days of me wanting to go get a racing license were over. And I thought just having fun blasting around in a Ferrari would be more fun.
Did you have any reservations or concerns?
You asked me about reservations.
Yes.
A little bit, yes, because the cars there and their fleet cost more than the house I was living in at the time. On the other hand, I had a reasonable. The best way to put it is, I'm a chicken. I have a fair amount of experience with racetrack driving, and I've only left a racetrack once ever. That was in the rain. I wasn't going very fast when that happened, but I have a nice natural sense of self-preservation, and I will only drive as fast as fear allows me.
Okay. You mentioned the cost of the cars. Was there a damage disclaimer that you had to sign?
There is some fine print and legalese in there, and I know there's a warning about if you disobey your instructor and wreck the car, there's consequences for that. But my plan was to not wreck the car.
So with Exotics Racing, is there a lead car, or how does that work with the instructors?
Oh no, he's in the car with you. So he's sitting in the passenger seat, and I think he does actually have a chicken pedal over there, but I've never had anyone use it on me. No, he's sitting right there in the seat, and he's blathering to you the whole time. What they do is they take you in, and they spend about maybe 35, 40 minutes in the classroom explaining traction and smooth inputs and braking and turning, and all the cars have paddle shifters, although you can put them in full automatic if you want. I always use the paddle shifters, even though I'm not a huge fan of those things. These are modern cars, so they've got electronic traction control, they've got stability control, they've got anti-lock brakes, and with the paddle shifter and the automatic transmission, really you sit there in the seat and he says gas or brake, and he says upshift, downshift, turn in. They've got cones out there to mark your apexes and your turn in and your braking zones. So if you have any high performance driving experience at all, and you listen to your instructor, you're in pretty good hands. As long as it's dry. And it's Las Vegas, so it doesn't rain much out there. I would not want to do it in the wet.
Is that because you're chicken?
I have a bad experience with high performance driving on wet surfaces, and I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. So while you were out in Vegas, what did you think about the facilities?
Well, I've been there 3 times. The first time I went, they were still in a tent. I mean, it was a big tent. It was a fancy tent, but it was still a tent. It was a temporary structure. And even still, the lounge area and everything was pretty nice. And then when I went back in March of 2015, they had the new facility open. So they had the showroom area, lounge, they've got chairs, they've got a snack bar. All that's very nice. And then the canopies where they park the cars are very nice and purpose built for that, for what they do there. For instance, they've got a little wooden stick. So rather than set the parking brake, you drive the car up against the wooden stick and let it sit there. And that's so that the brakes don't warp. They've got cooling fans overhead. They've got hoses where they can spray down the radiators if they need to. It's actually pretty good.
So it looks like each time you went, you picked a different set of cars. Why did you choose the ones that you did from their fleet?
Well, that gets a little complicated, but I'll try to explain it. I did the GTR because I'm a Nissan guy and I've always wanted to drive a Skyline. And even though the modern GTR is not technically a Skyline, it's still a Skyline. The Ferrari because the flat plane V8 Ferrari makes a very particular sound, and I've always wanted to sit in a Ferrari and rev that engine and hear it make that sound. The Porsches because Porsches are drivers' cars, and if you want to lay down a fast lap time, Porsche is a good vehicle to do it in. The Audi R8 was an accident, or actually it wasn't an accident. It was a replacement car because the car I wanted, which was the Aston Martin, was in the shop. So that just was what it was. They offered me a replacement or a refund, and I took the replacement. The McLaren, I have a long history with McLaren from their Formula One constructor days, and it's a brand I know pretty well. And I've just always wanted to drive one of their cars because they're the first car they ever built, the first street car they ever built, cost $1 million, and it was so far out of my ability to purchase that I couldn't even dream about it. But when they started building these more reasonably priced supercars, and Exotics Racing had one, I figured I would drive one just to say I'd driven a McLaren.
Okay.
Which car did you enjoy the most?
Definitely the Porsche, the GT3 RS. That car is made to go around a racetrack, around and around. I could drive that thing all day. And unlike the McLaren, you can get in and out of it without assistance. It's very Porsche-like. You sit upright. You've got a good view over the dashboard. The controls are in the right places, and it's just a great machine for going around in a circle.
Okay. How many laps did you do, and do you think that the pricing was acceptable?
Okay, let me see. I did 5 on the GTR, 7 on the F430, 7 or 8 on the 991 3.8 Porsche, and then 5 each on the Audi, the R8, or the Audi, the 570S, and the GT3 RS. And well, I'll put it this way: when you go and spend 3 cars, the 3 cars I got, I spent a little over $1,000, which is, I mean, there's worse ways to spend $1,000 in Las Vegas if you ask me, but for that, I wasn't going to add on the extra laps. But with some of the early cars, I did take the special and add extra laps and stuff. But $399 for a car, $299 for 5 laps. To me, that's not bad considering what it is you're driving, and they allow you access to the cars. It's not like you just show up and get in the car and drive your 5 laps and go home. You can touch and sit in and take pictures, and you can spend time communing with the cars. All the cars. Any car that they're not driving, you can go and be with. So if you're a person that's always wanted to hang out around Lamborghinis and Porsches and Ferraris, it's a good place to be. And if you can afford it, it's fine. If you can't, but I could afford it, especially if I was willing to save up a little bit.
It sounds like you're drinking. What are you drinking?
Just water, just ice water. I don't, even though we're called cocktails and crankshafts, I've learned the hard way that I cannot record while I'm drinking. It doesn't work out well.
All right. Well, we'll get back to talking about the driving. And since you're not drinking, I'm pretty sure you weren't drinking that day either. Did you feel safe when you were driving the car?
I'm sorry?
They have rules about it, of course.
Yes, they only sell soft drinks, and they don't allow drinking. But it's Las Vegas, and I'm sure there's folks that show up that probably had one or two morning cocktails because it is Vegas. But I've never seen anybody there that was out of control, and if they have to send you away, you don't get a refund. So I suspect most folks show up in pretty good shape, ready to drive. Certainly people like me who are serious about their lap times are.
Right. Did you feel like you were safe when you were in each of the vehicles, or did you?
Yes, except for one little hiccup once. I had a little bobble with the Audi, and it didn't get all the way away from me, but it just twitched. It just twitched enough to let me know that I needed to be more careful. I had one car. I didn't leave the course. Let's say I went outside the white line for a couple of seconds, and my instructor wasn't happy about it. But I didn't hit anything. But he was like, "Bro, you didn't turn, man. We were going off the course and you never turned." I didn't say anything, but I wanted to like if I hadn't turned, we'd be out in the desert somewhere. I kept my mouth shut. And that's the one thing. It's if you're like me and you're used to driving, say, a 150 horsepower car, things happen really fast when you're in a car with 500 or 600 horsepower, especially on a short track like this. So things are coming at you really fast, and your instructor's in your right ear saying turn, brake, shift, turn, brake, shift, turn, brake, shift, apex. And you're trying to listen and process, but if you're like me, you're trying to look up the road and see the track. And so I'm trying to focus on my driving, but I'm listening to him because he's there to keep me safe. And I'm trying to work the paddle shifters because my car has a regular transmission and I'm not used to paddle shifters. So there's a lot of processing that goes on, and it takes a couple minutes to get in the groove. And I had a situation where I was too busy listening to the instructor rather than focusing on what I was doing, and I upshifted, or I should have downshifted, and I got a little discombobulated, but we got it back together pretty quick. Time's money out there.
So you mentioned that these were all paddle shifts. Do they have any of the vehicles out there that are the old manual shift?
No.
Or is everything just like paddle now?
No, everything's paddle. And partly that's because anybody can show up and drive those, because when in doubt, you can put them in automatic mode. But the other thing is the paddle shifters are so much faster than any human being can shift. And they're self-protecting. For instance, in my 240, during my track days, I've missed shifts. I've gone for third gear and missed, and that can't happen in these cars. And with cars that are this expensive and this maintenance intensive, if you had people missing shifts or tearing up clutches, that would add to their maintenance costs and probably interrupt their business model. So they were very slick in what they did in making sure that all the cars were paddle shifted, because it saves them on maintenance costs. They don't have to worry about clutches so much. They don't have to worry about people over revving engines. It does take some getting used to, but I've learned to deal with it because the paddle shifters are faster. There's no way around that.
I've never driven a race car at all. Do you think that this would be something that would be okay for me?
Yes, they have lots of, according to the photographs I've seen, they have lots of women drive. I think I saw a lady driving once. Certainly it's doable. If you listen to the instructor and do what you're told, it works out pretty well, and you don't have to go as fast as everybody else. They're allowed to pass, so if you come around and if I come around behind you and you're going slow, your instructor will grab your steering wheel and turn on your hazard lights, and that lets me know that I'm allowed to go by you, and I'll go by, and then you'll continue on about your way.
Well, it really wasn't from a woman's standpoint. It was more about being a novice in this kind of a car.
If you haven't, okay, me personally, I don't think this is the kind of place I would go up and show up and drive without having some form of high performance driving experience, because there's a big jump between your standard everyday commuter car and one of these type vehicles. And that's not to say it's not doable, but I'm a person that likes to I'm incremental. I like to take small steps.
Okay. So how fast did you go, and do you think that you could go faster?
So that's the trick. Their racetrack is very tight and designed to keep you from generating a whole lot of speed. So I don't think I've ever exceeded 120 miles an hour on their track. But in comparing my lap times, that's a different story, because I'm a nerd and I do charts and graphs. So the fastest car I drove was a Ferrari F430, or no, let me say that. The car that I drove closest to its maximum potential was the Ferrari F430. So I drove approximately 92% of the record lap for that track. To put it another way, the fastest F430 ever driven on a track did a lap in 54.75 seconds. I did it in 59.01 seconds. So they went 78 miles an hour, I went 73. And I can tell you what the difference is right away. When you're out there on the track with an instructor in the car, if he says brake, you're supposed to brake, and he's going to run on the conservative side. But when they have people out there, the guys that are doing these fastest laps, some of them are professional race car drivers, some of them are the instructors themselves. They have a lot more leeway with the traction control and with how far they can drive the car into a corner before they hit the brakes. I think left to my own devices, I know that I don't have professional race driver speed, but I'm pretty close. I could probably get within about 5% of where they are.
So do you think you want to go again? And if you do, what's your next vehicle?
I'm definitely going to go again. I got a date with that Aston Martin that I need to solve. And then I'll probably go back to that GT3 RS. Because I feel like I left some there. I only drove that one at about 85-86% of its fastest lap. So I got some more there I can get. Thank you for watching Cocktails and Crankshafts. If you enjoy my content, please like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to hit the bell icon, and we'll see you soon with new content.